So we got a quick question here from Raymond Martinez Jr. He's asking us which QBs in the draft fit Kyle Shanahan's pattern. That's the easiest way to figure out who the team takes. I can go first if you want.
Go ahead.
All right. So the thing with Kyle Shanahan's drafting pattern is we actually have little evidence or little history of really who he takes in the draft. What we do know is that the traits he really values in his quarterback is toughness and knowing where to go with the football. He talks all the time about the quarterback being decisive. I think he defines the game very simply for the quarterback. So he wants the quarterback to go with the right place to the ball. And he just wants a guy who's tough as nails. And Kirk Cousins for him, ideally represented both those things. And you can see when he talks about those two things, which Kirk Cousins is tough as nails and Kirk Cousins knows where to go with the football, you can understand in a vacuum why he likes a guy like Kirk Cousins. Well, this year seemed to indicate that his opinion seemed to evolve, that maybe he was looking for a guy that could bail him out and go off structure a little bit more. But just talking about in terms of which quarterbacks fit Kyle Shanahan's drafting pattern, in terms of the toughness, I would say it's absolutely Justin Fields. I think he's the toughest quarterback in this draft. I think he's so willing to stand back there and take hits and deliver the ball down the field. He's tough as nails. And then in terms of knowing where to go with the football, obviously Trevor Lawrence represents both of these things, but he's there's no
not available.
So in terms of knowing where to go with the football, the other guy I think would be Zach Wilson or Mac Jones. Those would be the two guys I would say, but Zach Wilson also seems far-fetched at this point, but Mac Jones knows where to go with the football. Justin Fields does for the most part too, though there are times he can be a little indecisive at the top of his drop. But yeah, so ideally I would say it's one of those three.
Yeah, so first let's talk about what we think Kyle Shanahan looks for in a quarterback. It's difficult because he doesn't ever tell you what it is. Like, he's not like, here's like X, Y, Z. It's not like this formula. You just put these things together and that's a Kyle Shanahan quarterback, because he's drafted differently and he's never taken a first-round quarterback since RG3, and that wasn't even really his decision. So you don't really know what he covets, especially sometimes in the late rounds. You may just take a flyer on a player or whatever. So it's always been something different. But yes, I do agree, toughness. I saw people talking about Jimmy Garoppolo not being tough. I do think that's one of his best traits. He hangs in the pocket and takes a lot of hits. Does get hurt, but I think he's really tough. And Kirk Cousins, again, same thing. And then the second thing I'd say is like accuracy / knowing where to go with the ball. Pre-snap, I think Kyle Shanahan does a really good job of setting up different reads at different levels of the field. And based on what the defense gives you pre-snap, you determine, what look you like as a quarterback. And so I've watched the top 5 quarterbacks. And if, the 3 guys that I particularly really like, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and Zach Wilson, in that order, I'd say. Justin Fields is probably the most unnatural fit because the offense was really different at Ohio State. They run a ton of RPO, and it's different than what the 49ers run right now. So that's probably the most unnatural fit, but I think
it's the most college offense of those 3 guys.
Yep, agreed. It's the not pro style offense. You're right. But I think Justin Fields has the highest ceiling of those 3 guys. Just given his physical tools, his size, his strength, his arm, and the plays he was able to make behind an Ohio State offensive line and with Ryan Day, who somehow I came out of watching Justin Fields and my opinion of Ryan Day lessened as a coach, at least, or as an offensive schemer. Then Zach Wilson, who, I don't know, feels a little overhyped right now. Maybe it's just like the draft machine. A lot of the time it feels like he's playing 7-on-7 because his offensive line's really good. And he made a lot of 50-50 throws where his receiver made plays. And you don't know how that translates in the NFL. And a lot of people see Mahomes, Rodgers, and those guys have the arm talent to pull that off, but it's not very common. And sometimes he struggles to read the field, I think. And he really only had 1 good season. So I'd be hesitant from that standpoint. And then Mac Jones. And I know a lot of people dislike this because you see slow, immobile quarterback, this pudgy guy. But Mac Jones in his 1 season at Alabama, operated the hell out of that offense. His tape was probably the cleanest out of the 3 guys. By far, yeah. I think he only threw 4 picks, and a couple of those might have been tipped. So I was really impressed with Mac Jones. Tough as nails, really good deep ball. The hardest part of his evaluation is he played on an all-star team. So it's okay, how much is Mac Jones contributing to this? But you still have to make the throws, make the reads.
Mm-hmm.
hang in the pocket, all that kind of stuff. So I was really impressed with him. His ceiling to me feels a little lower. Like he feels like KP said, my podcast host, he said that he looks kind of like Jake Delhomme, the Panthers quarterback. He feels like Kirk Cousins to me with a better deep ball.
I see Andy Dalton.
Yeah. And so typically those players go not in the first round, but it feels like Mac Jones is going to go in the top 15. So I'd be a little hesitant from that standpoint. But those would be the three names instantly that I think are Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks. I'm not a fan of some of the later round names that are tossed around, the Davis Mills, the Kellen Mond, the Kyle Trask, those guys. I would stay the hell away from those guys. Those three for my money.
Blake?
I got one guy. He's the guy I've mainly scouted the most or just like watched tape of, and I think he's going to be special basically, and that's Zach Wilson. So he has been in just like the general like media and buzz. His stock has flew up a ton, obviously this year, because I mean going into the season, BYU kind of had like an open quarterback competition. They weren't sure if he was going to be the starter completely. He won that, and like you said, Akash, his best year has been this year. He did not look like this last year, but this year he was special. A couple reasons why I like him the most. You see the quick release that he has. I think that'd be great for the Niners system just in general with quick stuff. And then one thing that I think would be added more is maybe like more stuff to the receiver out of the backfield. I know you see with guys that have strong arms and quick releases, they can get it out faster. So it's almost like another extension of the run game. Shanahan loves doing stuff like that with Debo. So maybe they put Debo on the backfield and do things along those lines. I'm not too sure. And then the other thing I like about him is outside the pocket, he just makes plays, whether that's throwing like off his base. Like he can do that. Yeah. Like, and I value that a lot. And then obviously the arm angles are just like sweet to watch. He kind of looks like he's throwing a baseball at times. And those are things that you just like can't teach. You really can't. So that's what I like about him. Main issues like durability. And he has had a couple surgeries on his shoulders, I believe. And I don't think the Niners fans want to go through with another quarterback that's injury prone because that would just be torture. But I do like Wilson a lot. I think he'd fit the scheme really, really well, to be honest with you guys. But will he be there? Because he looks like he's going 2 to the Jets. And I don't know if they'd trade a lot for the torture they've endured at quarterback over the last decade, I'd want to say. Probably maybe even longer. So we'll see.
Yeah. So go ahead. My bad.
I was just going to say, so you're right on Zach Wilson in terms of the pure fit, right? Because when you watch BYU's offense, they run a ton of outside zone. They run play action off of it. They run a lot of the same concepts that Kyle Shanahan does. So you're like, I see the stuff that the 49ers run, and I see Zach Wilson run it. So in theory, he could fit very well. So that part I do agree with. And yeah, he's going to have his pro day on Friday. He's listed at 6'3", 210. Yeah, I bet he's like 6 foot 190. Yeah. He's not 6'3". Justin Fields is like 6'3", 230. Zach Wilson's like 6 foot. At least that's what he looks like on tape when you watch him. Mm-hmm. So the size thing is a concern. It's a good point. He feels more like a Baker Mayfield type height than like Justin Fields type size.
Mm-hmm.